can explain it.
Now, here at Monadnock Speedway, there is no infield pit road.
Not at all.
And because of that, these will be a cold pit road or a non-competitive pit stop. So as you come down pit road, if you choose to, and you don't have to.
That is correct.
But if you choose to come down pit road under caution, you have to still stay on the lead lap as normal. But down on pit lane, you will come off of pit road the way you went on pit road.
That is correct.
And that's really a safety thing. Because there's no true pit road here at this racetrack, it keeps everybody safe. They can come back out onto the racetrack, be patient and cautious as they do so while they get their service. The question is when they take those tires. So, Ben, NASCAR has put a rule in place that would force a competition caution, so to speak, that would give teams time to get that work done. And that'll happen sometime between lap 90 and lap 140.
That's correct.
The first caution that takes place during that period of time, the pace car will slow down enough so the entire field can get in there and get their tire. So the opportunity will be there. The question is when do you take it, or do you take it,
Correct.
and do you try to go the whole way without a pit stop?
And in addition to that, where do you put that tire on the car? That's going to be a key ingredient as well. So here at this speedway, you enter the paddock or pit area down in turn number 1. It's literally got a live ramp area that heads you down to the pits. You come back onto the racetrack coming off turn number 2, and that's where all of this seems to take its play as we, again, put things together to get everything back up to speed. You know, we talk about history of this event. There's a lot of history at this racetrack, and this is the 18th time, as Joe had mentioned before, that the Whelen Modified Tour has visited the high banks of Monadnock. It all began in 1986 when Kenny Bouchard was the first winner overall. But then you looked at the list of winners, Joe. Pretty impressive. Mr. Excitement, Jim Spencer, won in 87. Mike Stefanik in 88. Reggie Ruggiero in 89. And even Jamie Tomaino visited Victory Lane here in 1990. Then there was a huge gap, Joe. And what happened next?
20 years later, we came back. The late Ted Christopher won. Todd Zegedy is a winner here. Cup Series star Ryan Preece has won. Timmy Solomito, Doug Kobe, a 2-times winner. And Justin Bonsignor, a 5-time winner. And most recently, making his very first Whelen Modified Tour victory, driving Old Blue. The first time that car had won in 7 years. Jake Johnson won the event here in May. Now, Jake Johnson's going to have his work cut out for him. He will start back in the 15th position here today. It'll be interesting to see how he can navigate through the field as he rolls out. Now, earlier today, we had the redraw, and it was Austin Beers who won the Mayhew Tool Pole Award, but like Matt Hirschman did at Seekonk, he drew poorly in the redraw. He will start 8th. The tables are reversed. Matt Hirschman goes from 10th to on the redraw starting 2nd.
He does. So it has flip-flopped around. And again, as we said before, there is in excess of $85,000 in posted awards on the line for this event. And, of course, it's 250 laps. That interprets into 62.50 miles. And you might not think that's a long way when you're driving on the street here, but for these competitors, it is a long way to go here at this racetrack. We have went green to checker before. You remember it was Justin Bonsignor who led each and every circuit in a green to checker finish, which is very rare at any racetrack, but even more rare at what they used to refer to as a bull ring. Now you're looking at the field of cars. There's the 21 of Stephen Kopczyk among the quicker cars for the rookies in practice. Next to him is Brian Roby, and there's the 60. This is the yellow and red machine. And that, of course, the Baker Elite machine, and that, of course, is Matt Hirschman. That's what you're looking at there, and that car, of course, had some success here, but it wasn't able to close the deal the way Matt wanted to close the deal. And, Joe, we've talked about it so many times before. I watched Matt Hirschman walk into the paddock area. He had 2 notebooks under each arm, and he was carrying what they call a rack and pinion steering for the cars. He was focused. He worked his way directly down to the paddock area, and he immediately started his quest for today's event. So as we can say, this story is pretty unique in the fact that everybody has been here at least once, the majority of the field. That was the Granite State Derby way back on May 4th.
Absolutely. Getting back to Matt Hirschman, he said to me earlier in the day today, he says this format with the one tire that you can change and the competition caution, how this will all play out, he says it becomes a real wild card in the series. He said, and you've got to be careful because this is a race where if your strategy is good, you can win the race by timing it and having the fastest car at the right time. But he said, you can go out there and lead 150 laps tonight. That doesn't guarantee victory.
It does not.
There's anybody who's good at strategy. The best at strategy is a driver of that car number 60, Matt Hirschman.
It certainly is the story. Now, another competitor in this field is, of course, the 16 machine, defending champion. We can hear things fired up, and the cars are starting to move. Onto the racetrack, here's Joe Koss.
They will align themselves based on the redraw. Austin Beers comes out onto the racetrack first, but he will get back in line, back in the 8th position. We'll do a couple of pace laps. It'll be a rolling start here tonight for the Duel of the Dog 250. And once they align themselves, we'll go ahead and get into that starting lineup. The field comes up over the hill. A beautiful night in what has been just sweltering heat throughout Northeast, throughout the country here. And it's cooled down enough just in time for the modifieds to turn the heat back up again.
You sure are. And, of course, we just looked at the weather. It is 75 degrees as the sun is setting on Mount Monadnock, and we're ready for an incredible night of competition. This, of course, the oldest division in NASCAR, the men and women of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. You can see those cars rumbling in the paddock area, heading on to the racetrack. They'll readjust the lineup. Jimmy Wilson is the man in charge with his very qualified staff of NASCAR officials getting ready to do battle. Josh Venata has been a gracious host for these competitors. JDV Productions presenting this, the second stop. And it's all been brought to the high banks of Monadnock in association with Whelen Engineering, first name in light sirens and safety services used throughout the world. Whelen Engineering, American made and proud of it. And this is Americans Modified Division, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour.
And those Whelen Engineering lights illuminating this Monadnock Speedway here in Winchester, New Hampshire, as Whelen manufactured in America, the Whelen Granite State Short Track Cup, that extra bonus money, and that's why drivers like Matt Hirschman, Brian Roby, Nate Wenzel, Matt Kimball run this race. So they're yet to get aligned into their starting lineup, but we will go ahead and introduce to you the way that they will roll off here today. The Riverhead Building Supply, number 46, Craig Lutz will start first from Millard Place, New York. Big money, Matt Hirschman, winner at Seekonk earlier this season, will start second, the Elite Towing, number 60.
Let's take a look at row number 2. Patrick Emmerling, the Fleetworks number 1, will start third on the grid. Stephen Kopsick, the first rookie driver, the Newtown Pools, will start in the 21 car in position number 4.
Row number 3, 8th in points for Trevor Catalano out of Ontario, New York, the Catalano Motorsports, number 56. Justin Bonsignor, he's a 5-time winner here at Monadnock Speedway, the Phoenix and Communications Incorporated, number 51.
Let's take a look at row number 4. Brian Roby, a New Hampshire state champion. The Bar Harbor Bank Machine, the Stingers, number 25, will start in 7th. Austin Beers, the quickest guy. Well, luck of the draw changed all of that. The G&G Electrical, Dell's Electric Machine. Car 64 from Northampton, Pennsylvania, will start in the 4th row.
Starting 9th, Kyle Bonsignor from Bayshore, New York, the 22 Chalou Performance MTT Munz Auto Modified. Ron Silk, 2-time and defending series champion, Blue Mountain Machine, and Future Homes, number 16, starts 10th.
In the 11th starting spot, it'll be the J&M Towing Company Machine. That, of course, is car number 43 for Matt Kimball out of Bennington, New Hampshire. Outside of that row, car number 84, the Catalano Motorsports car from Ontario, New York, the rookie, Tyler Catalano.
John Michael Chanette will start 13th in the 82 Services, number 8. Tommy Catalano, the 54, will start 14th.
Moving now to the 8th row, 15th starting position, the winner of the first event held here, and that, of course, the Propane Plus, Lynn's Propane Trucks, number 3. Of course, from Rehoboth, Massachusetts, Jake Johnson, 16th starting position. Coming back to the tour, the Horton Avenue Material Gunstoke Stables, number 82, Woody Pitcat.
Starting 17th, the Ebersol Excavating, number 5 for New Hampshire's Kyle Ebersol, alongside the veteran, 9-time series winner Tim Conley in the 18.
Let's take a look at the 10th row, 19th starting position, a young gun, 1812, Peyton Auto Body, number 81, Nathan Wenzel, Granby, Mass. Then Melissa Fivefield, starting back in the 20th position, the Farm Fueled Nutrition's car.
Field has gotten the 2 to go signal. Let's quickly check in on pit road and Jesse Punch.
Guys, I talked to Austin Beers before the race, and he was incredibly confident, understandably so. He's had a strong day already, fastest in qualifying and fastest in practice. He tells me racing here at Monadnock this year is completely different with the repave that they did in the offseason. He said there's other guys in the field that have much more experience, more wins, but we all have the same size notebook about this new surface. So he feels the playing field has been pretty much leveled. And after finishing second here back in May, he's chasing win number 1 of the season tonight.
Thank you, Jesse. The field is in turn 3, ready to see the green flag of the Duel of the Dog 250 at Monadnock Speedway. Atop the flag stand from Whelen, Eve Appel will throw the green flag, and we are underway at Monadnock.
The green is out, and from the high banks of Monadnock down the back straightaway to lead lap number 1, Craig Lutz, who was the quickest car in the first round of practice, will set the pace. Already a side-by-side battle, Joe, and that's for position number 3. Stephen Kopsik taps on the back bumper of the 60. Hirschman guards second. They're side-by-side for third.
Nearly sub 12-second laps here at Monadnock Speedway. Very, very tight quarter-mile bull ring, and they are certainly going to use every bit of this banking as the race goes on. New asphalt that was laid down here before the season began. Only the second Whelen Modified Tour race on it, Ben. The drivers said that as the race went on, there'll be a lot of grip, and they felt that this racetrack was a lot faster here today in July than it was in May.
You know, you looked at the modifieds that run here at this racetrack. Their times have dipped into the low 12s. These cars were running in the 11s. Let's go back to the front pack of cars, and it appears that car number 16, all of a sudden, Ronnie Silk got a little bit loose on the last circuit by. He runs in the back bumper of Catalano, but back up front, Lust is still the leader, 6 laps and counting.
It's not surprising to see these cars run the extreme inside lane early in the run, but as the race goes on, you can see how the racetrack and the rubber is a little bit wider. Expect that outside lane to come the deeper we get into this run. Here's Ron Silk working the inside of Trevor Catalano. This is a battle for position on the racetrack as they work in through turns 1 and 2 for 7th and 8th. Silk to the bottom of the 16.
Silk does a good job guarding the inside lane. Catalano has to back out of it just a moment. He pulls in the tire tracks of Silk. That's the 16 car. Meanwhile, side-by-side bid. Behind him, Brian Roby, one of the hometown boys. He's already had success here at the High Bank, but not on the Whelen Modified Tour. Coming to the front, car 22, also a huge factor, is Kyle Bonsignor, now at the bottom of the top 10.
Kyle Bonsignor had a very strong run going here in May, but they had motor problems midway through. They really didn't have an opportunity to get the finish that they had hoped for. He's looking good here in the early stages. Matt Kimball is another one of the favorite local drivers. When we watched him in qualifying earlier today, Ben, his car looked like it was going to be very smooth, very stable over the long run. We'll see how he does when we get deeper into this run.
Well, he knows this track. He started racing in the Young Guns division, worked up through the mini stock division, and he's had success wherever he's went. His father is a former New Hampshire state champion as well. This is the kid next door. He is a lumberjack by trade, and he is a hard worker. This is his dream, to win in front of the home crowd here at Monadnock.
And not a regular on the Whelen Modified Tour, but I don't think a good run from him would surprise many people here at this racetrack. So Matt Kimball, one of the drivers that's local to keep an eye on, is everybody works around the lap automobile of Melissa Fifield down to the inside. Now there's the 82 car of Woody Pitkat. Ben, we didn't think that we were ever going to see that car again in the Whelen Modified Tour, yet here it is.
Interestingly enough, this car was for sale. And, of course, the owner said didn't have a lot of bidders on it. The car was setting. It was literally catching moths and everything else that you'd put on an old race car that was setting behind the garage. They took it out, put it together, and Danny Watts has got a good race car. Doug Dunleavy and Gunsmoke Stables have been a part of that. Back up front, it appears the 4 car is off the pace for Tim Conley. That car drops to the inside. Conley has a problem and pulls to the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, it's tough to get off the racetrack here when you're stuck on the bottom. So Conley just brings that car to the inside. That'll be enough for the caution, the first caution of the day, and it comes out On lap number 19, Tim Conley's car was slow to the bottom. He could not get up to the high groove as the conveyor belt of cars were going. You see the left front tire there, Ben. It's laid over in the wrong direction there. It seems as though he might have some suspension problems there on the left front.
It certainly does. Then if you look to the right front, you'll saw some steam coming off that tire as well. We're not sure what the story is there. Tim Conley, an outstanding athlete in his own right, took a lot of time off from competing in racing, decided to come back, him and his wife. His wife bought him a race car, and he bought him a car that Bob Garbarino previously had owned. That was the start. Then he got the bug again, and now his race team are looking at the number 4 car. It appears, you can see it looks like some fluid perhaps beneath it. You can see a crew member taking the taste test and what that fluid might be from underneath the machine. So a heartbreaking situation. They have lost a couple of engines this season already, and this is not the way that they wanted to start things.
Well, I can tell you that is hot as the steam comes out from underneath it as they tested that fluid to see exactly what it was. So probably not suspension problems on the 4 car, but indeed something wrong mechanically for Tim Conley. So a tough break for him. Your point around the engine problems that they had earlier in the season. Now, pit road is open. They released the cars here along the start-finish line.
There's the first
Tyler
car to take a visit.
Catalano will be the first car to come down pit road. Now, remember, these are going to be non-competitive pit stops as the race goes on here, as the pit road has stalls on both the right and left. And then it loops around where Tyler is driving around the building in the back, and then comes back on through the other side of the Whelen Modified Tour garage where there's another row of pit stops. And you can see all the photographers and media members running over to catch those pit stalls. Jessie is on her way to see what's going on with the 84 car of Tyler Catalano.
Another car that looks to be moving around a bit is Melissa Fifield's machine. We're going to see if that car is going to be, I think, the recipient of the lucky dog. And now coming back out, the Catalano race car. They've made their adjustments and heading back over the hill.
And this is key, right? So Tyler Catalano comes back out onto the racetrack in time to stay on the lead lap as he rolls up onto the racetrack. So a little bit different here because of that pit stop. They release the cars at the start-finish line, and they rejoin on the back straightaway, and then can come back around to the tail end of the field, just by the way it's set up. And that was explained to the drivers in the drivers' meeting earlier today.
Interestingly enough, when they explained it to the drivers literally grasped it first time around. There was no big talk of what was wrong with the situation or how it would work to the advantage. And in this case, it's pretty much working to the advantage. 24 lap show up on the big board here. You're looking at the leader, Craig Lutz, car number 46. Lutz, who started in position number 1. First practice of the day, that was the quickest car right out of the box. When you talk to individuals watching the Whelen Modified Tour teams, they all said after the first practice, that could be the car to beat. Time will tell in that situation.
Craig Lutz and his team on a little bit of a slide lately over the past couple of races after a strong start. And now with them starting up on the front row, trying to take advantage of that redraw position to put that 46 up front. We're set for the first restart of the evening. Craig Lutz in the 46 to the inside. Matt Hirschman in the red and yellow number 60 up top. Green flag from Sean Houlihan atop the flag stand, and Craig Lutz quickly clears Matt Hirschman in turn 1 and 2. Everybody else stacked up 2 by 2 in the turn street as they head into turn 3.
No question about it. Steven Kopsik tries to guard that third position. While he is guarding the third spot, all of a sudden Patrick Emmerling, the Fleet Service Machines, car number 1, the upstate New York driver. Oh, Woody Pitcat does the slide for life up the hill with car number 82. Somehow he gathered it back up front. Bid for the third position. Joe Emmerling is hung out to dry. Kopsik takes over the spot, but it's short-lived.
Steven Kopsik, just his second Whelen Modified Tour start, but no stranger to Tour-Type Modifieds. He's well known as a crew chief, a winning crew chief in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. Muscles his way underneath Patrick Emmerling, the third.
Trouble.
But it is Kyle Bonsignor who has gone around off turn number 4 to bring us under our second caution here on lap 30.
So the number 22 goes around, gets it fired back up. Caution comes out. 31 now clicks off on the board, and we'll see who's going to take advantage of this. Car number 22, of course, that car
It's been a tough night for them. They were
Yes.
one of the teams that was based out of North Carolina. That's where Kyle Bonsignore lives now. But they got stuck in part of the airline delays. He did not get to New Hampshire until 3:30 in the morning. They got to the hotel at 4:30, took a quick snooze before coming over to the racetrack here today. We'll take another look at what happened. He was inside the top 10 as he goes around off turn 4.
Yep, back end snapped around. We're not sure from that angle if there was any contact at all, but car number 22, Cam McDermott, prepares that car. Also prepares the number 8 car for Woody Pitkat. Also prepares Doug Dunleavy's car, and his dad is instrumental in helping with that operation, all of those operations as well. So it's a real family deal, and this guy's got a ton of talent. It's just a matter of time before he is one of the breakthrough players in the Whelen Modified Tour.
They had a lot of momentum coming in second at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Very optimistic and positive about their car. But remember, this is a race that I think is going to have a lot of different strategy play, and I don't think that just by coming down pit road now that they can count their day over yet. There's still plenty of opportunity for this team to recover here early on in the race.
Correct. 2 cars in. Catalano is 1. And then, of course, the other car in is Kyle Bonsignore. You can see them jacking up the Bonsignore machine.
So this would be one of the first cars to take tires outside of Tyler Catalano, who had his car up on jacks earlier in the day today.
And interestingly enough, we talked about the choice in what part of the race car, whether it would be right side, whether it would be fronts, whether it be rears, whether it be left sides. And we just saw a sneak peek of their strategy. But was that strategy due to the fact that they were a car that brought out the caution?
Well, why would they be changing a left rear tire? You would think that typically you'd lean on that right rear tire. Well, here's why. The right side tires here this weekend are much more hard compound. The left side tires are softer, so when they came off in practice, it was the left sides that were showing more wear. Now, that's normally what you would think.
It's very, very rare.
It's based on the tire compound. I would expect the cars that come down pit road, more often than not, the first tire they're going to take is actually going to be a left rear tire.
I agree with you. Talking with everybody as we've had the opportunity to do, that was the story. Let's go down to Jesse. Jesse.
22 of Kyle Bonsignore involved in that last incident there. Doesn't look like a lot of damage to that race car. Team brought him down pit road and changed that left rear tire. Kyle coming off a career best finish last race at Loudon, battling his cousin for the win there, finished second to Justin. He's hoping to have another strong run tonight to continue the momentum.
So he will rejoin the race, and he is shown well deep in the field here at this point for Kyle Bonsignore in that 22. He's got some work to do. We'll re-rack him at the front of the field. 36 laps of the 250 in the record book. Craig Lutz on the bottom. Matt Hirschman is there. Stephen Kopchik, Patrick Emmerling, Justin Bonsignore, Ron Silk. Your top 6 as they roll through turns 3 and 4 and come up to speed. Green lights go on, and the green flag waves as they come through, and it's Craig Lutz. Very good and very efficient on those starts. He clears Hirschman by 2 car lengths.
He certainly does. The story now becomes a story for second. Hirschman working that upper groove. Nobody's really been able to stick out there so far, but we are only 38 laps into this event. Side-by-side bid for position number 2. Stephen Kopsik takes it in deep, off the turn. Matt Hirschman trying to dig on the outside. Another big mover is Ronnie Silk. Car number 16. You see it to the left of your screen, working its way around to the outside of Patrick Emmerling.
We knew the outside lane was going to start to come in, and little by little you see Hirschman get the better of Stephen Kopchik on the outside. Same for Ron Silk as he gets by Patrick Emmerling around the outside. So that outside line is going to be something that once a couple of drivers and spotters see that, they'll tell them, hey, you see that outside, it's starting to come in.
And I think Ronnie Silk is one of those drivers that has got that message. He's all of a sudden glued to the back bumper of Stephen Kopsik. Battle you're looking at is a battle between the 21 and the 16 car. Meanwhile, further back, the youngster from right down the street here, Matt Kimball, car number 43, is up to the top 10. Kimball works his magic there. Another young talent, Austin Beers, directly in front of him.
Now, Austin Beers has not really made that much progress after having to go back, winning the pole, and then falling back. Here's a great battle here. Kyle Ebersol in the 5. The 25 is Brian Roby, who was very quick in practice earlier in the day today. We'll see if that practice speed will transition over to their late race speed. Now, this is a team that doesn't typically do races with pit stops. This way with a non-competitive pit stop could kind of work to their advantage where they can keep pace if they decide to come down pit road.
Absolutely, but this competitor has so much experience at this racetrack. He can put some of that experience to the test. He actually won the first modified event held here with this Monadnock Speedway modified division at the start of this season. Good battle right there. Meanwhile, you're looking back up front, and it appears that Lutz continues to pull away from the competition. Kopsick tries to hold off the upper groove. Here comes Ronnie Silk. Silk saw the door open, closed it. Emmerling is there with him, and here comes Justin Bonsignore.
Silk now will look underneath Steven Kopsick in a battle for the third spot. He'll make quick work of him as they come across the line. Now Patrick Emmerling trying to go underneath. Tight quarters there in turns 1 and 2 as Emmerling nearly coming together with Kopsick.
They almost touch, and of course, off the turn, Emmerling in a side-by-side field. You just looked at why they call them rub rails, because those two cars came together like two cymbals in an orchestra.
They have to work around the lap machine of Melissa Fifield. That made these cars go single file to the outside lane. You know, Steven Kopsick is a driver who is known to be aggressive. He's not going to hold anything back, and you saw that contact between he and Patrick Emmerling. That's his style. He goes after it, and that's what he's known for.
Certainly is. Meanwhile, another side-by-side battle a little further back. All of a sudden, well, it is Melissa Fifield down mowing the grass on the bottom of the racetrack. Her car apparently has got a problem. It fires up just as the caution flag comes out. Caution number 3 comes out. It is for Melissa Fifield. Something happened there. She dropped to the inside of the racetrack, and that would bring out the caution. So we'll see who will take advantage of our visit back to the paddock area here, if we have any takers in this one.
Still seems a little early for the drivers that are up front, and I think part of that has to do with the fact that we've had these shorter green flag runs here to get us started here tonight in the Duel at the Dog 250. You know, the car up front, though, has been super, super impressive. You know, we have seen the success that Craig Lutz has had on the big tracks. Tracks like Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park. He's had pretty decent runs at New Hampshire Motor Speedway as well. He's always been that style of driver. However, when you look at his success this season, the highlights have been the short tracks.
They certainly have.
So it's been completely different than what we have seen in the past out of Craig Lutz, and he's proving that again here tonight. Again, 22nd at New Hampshire, 19th at Seekonk. He is looking to turn his season around.
He certainly is. Now we're looking at the 64 machine. Sly Zabin prepared car with Ronnie Uhouse. It looks like Austin Beers is heading. Yes, he heads back to the pit road in the paddock area. Behind that car is the number 8 machine, John Michael Chenette, a youngster who worked in the concession area at Thompson Speedway as a kid, come from Woodstock Valley, a small farming community. They call it the quiet corner of the state of Connecticut as well. Jesse's down there on road and checking in with the 64.
64 of Austin Beers down here on pit road. That team getting under the hood. They're going to pay some attention to this race car. I mentioned earlier Austin was incredibly fast in practice and qualifying, but he's been running anywhere between 5th and 10th here, so definitely not the kind of run they wanted to have. We're going to have to see if these improvements will help this race car at all.
That's an interesting strategy call for Sly Zabin and that entire team to come down and make some adjustments here on the 64 of Austin Beers. He's going to give up a tremendous amount of track position to go from where he was running to the tail end of the field. And we have seen the risk that puts you in. All of a sudden, you're back there running in side-by-side action, have to fight and claw your way forward. The reward, though, is it going to pay off at the end of the race?
Interestingly enough, when we talked to Ronnie Uhouse, he said earlier today, Austin Beers likes to back up at the beginning of the race and then work his way back forward. He can set into a rhythm. Maybe that might be a part of the strategy. But remember, Joe, 250 circuits. The Duel at the Dogs, longer distance. So the strategy for a 150 or even a 100 all goes out the window when you're looking at an event of this type.
And what's interesting is Austin Beer said earlier today, now he's got 2 consecutive runner-up finishes here at this racetrack. He said, you know what, one of my problems of why I didn't win that race is because I was just too far back in the field.
Yes.
So for them to come down pit road now is almost counter to what their strategy was coming in, because of the fact that of the results that they had the last couple of races. They just didn't get there in time. So we'll see whether or not those adjustments are enough to make that car fast enough to drive forward.
Certainly has. And of course, Austin has a schedule. It is literally like the list for Christmas for a little youngster. It's got everything and anything on it. He's been competing on a regular basis at Stafford in the SK Modified division, driving for the Bowles family. And he said that's helping him adjust his driving styles and skill here as well.
Now, we just got an update from NASCAR officials that Austin Beers, when he was down on pit lane, has lost a lap. So Austin Beers now being shown in the 19th position, and he is 1 lap behind the race leaders.
And let's explain how that situation takes place. The reason for that is quite simple. He went to the pit area. He's supposed to make it back out, correct, Joe? And he did not. He missed it. And therefore, that puts him down 1 lap.
And so that's one of the things that will certainly hurt them. It's one thing to come down pit road and give up some track position. It's a whole other thing to have a long pit stop and all of a sudden go down 1 lap. So Austin Beers now, we have seen a fair amount of cautions. Austin Beers right now is being shown the first car 1 lap down. The only other car out on track, Melissa Fifield, and she is right behind him. So Austin Beers, assuming the race leaders don't put anybody else down a lap, Austin Beers, if we get another caution, will be the first car a lap down. Now, so far we've seen runs. They have been short. 19-lap run, an 11-lap run, and a 24-lap run. So it's possible that Austin Beers could be that first car a lap down.
Certainly is. And, of course, we've only got 1 car that is off the racetrack from the original starting lineup of 21. Tim Conley, mechanical problems, took him out. Off turn number 4, all eyes are on the start. Green flag comes back out, and it is Craig Lutz again. Inside, but look at Hirschman. Digging hard. And Joe, I think you're right. The outside is starting to come in, and we're seeing a sneak preview of that. But look at Ronnie Silk on the inside. Car number 16 in row number 2.
I also think that Craig Lutz, his car is starting to go away a little bit. When he stepped on the gas on that restart, not as good as it was the time before, but Nat Hirschman was able to hang with him. Hirschman now settles back into second. Single file the top 3. Ron Silk sits third. Everling on a shape off turn number 2.
And to the outside of Emberling, here comes Justin Bonsignor. He is also a factor in a side-by-side battle with Steven Kopsik. Back up front. Here they are, side-by-side, bid for the 5th position. Look at Bonsignor. Couldn't complete the mission there, as Kopsik moved to the inside, and now young Matt Kimball is giving the 5-time plus winner a big run for the money.
Keep your eye on Matt Kimball. I don't think this is going to be the last that we're going to see of him tonight. We talked about how stable that car was earlier in the day today. We're now 3 runs in of about 20 laps each. 70 laps in this race with 20 lap segments. And Matt Kimball has been good. Meanwhile, the car in front of him, 5-time winner at this racetrack, Justin Bonsignor, his car is all kinds of unhappy. He is sideways up off the corner. Really see him driving that number 51. That car is not handling as well as Justin Bonsignor prefers.
It is not. He's trying to sink it in deep. Now this time he moves down to the inside of the 21 car. Back up to second. It is the 16 that quickly moves in. Ronnie Silk, who's never tasted the sweets of victory in the modified tour race here at the High Banks, is looking to make it his first. While the side-by-side bid continues, Matt Kimball is also making his presence known. Kimball is battling for the 6th spot on the inside of the car number 21 of Steven Kopsik.
Boy, Steven Kopsik was inside the top 3 not long ago. The handling on that 21 car has completely gone away as he has dropped backwards now, back in the 7th position, and continues to drop. Up front, though, Craig Lutz continues to lead the way. He goes around Melissa Fifield, but he looks in the rearview mirror now in the battle for the lead. Ron Silk is there, and he's starting to put the pressure on the race leader, Craig Lutz.
No question about it. Silk is moving in, The margin between first and second is starting to dwindle. It is less than .394. Silk is coming. Meanwhile, Kimball works his magic. He stays glued to the back bumper of Justin Bonsignore. Keep your eyes on the 51 and the 43 car. Those two cars have now worked their way into 5th and 6th spot, and they're not done yet.
And Kimball is one of the only cars that can run very, very low. Look how much lower he's running than Justin Bonsignore. As all the other cars, the handling starts to go away. They move up the racetrack. Kimball, though, has a car that turns perfectly through the center, especially in turns 1 and 2.
It certainly does. Now, when they repaved the racetrack, they took some of the old rumble sticks out of the bottom of the racetrack. When they did that, that added some extra distance to run in the very bottom. But few, with the exception of Matt Kimball, have found the magic there.
Kimball continuing to try to set Justin Bonsignore up for this pass. The question is, as we get nearer and closer to the midway point of this race, is he using up too much of his tires trying to get around Justin Bonsignore for the 5th position here, just 83 laps into this race?
He's really working that car hard. You can see tremendous, as you say. He's got great bite when he comes off, but Bonsignore continues to guard the spot lap after lap. Lutz is still the leader, but as we go back up front, Silk is right there. Lutz's car is starting to go away, Joe. You call that correct. We're looking back a little further. Watch Ronnie Silk. Watch the Lutz machine. Came off the turn the last time, loosens up just a bit, and Ronnie Silk is not there yet, but he is in striking distance. Coming up on lap traffic, Melissa Fifield, as he works their magic to the outside. Lutz goes around the lapped automobile. Ronnie Silk loses a little bit of forward bite and momentum there.
Ron Silk this year has been very good on the long runs, and it's not surprising to see as this run gets deeper in that Silk creates a lot of speed. And you see two good battles right behind them, one for 3rd and 4th, one here for 5th and 6th, and of course this one for the race lead. Craig Lutz out in front with Ron Silk continuing to see if he can find the lane underneath or around Craig Lutz.
He made a bid for it, tries the inside lane. Ronnie Silk, door shut, no room at the end this time. Back up front, Lutz is doing everything. This is where the spotters become key. On a tight bull ring racetrack like this, the spotter is the best friend of any competitor in the field.
So Ron Silk starting to lose some ground here a little bit. You go back a little bit further in the battle for the 3rd spot. It's heating up because Patrick Emmerling just got around the 60 car of Matt Hirschman to move into 3rd.
Patrick Emmerling started out the season with those consistent runs in the first 3 races. Then all of a sudden there were some changes in the operation. Those changes seem to be working because car number 1 is a factor. Emmerling is up to the 3rd position, bumping Hirschman back to 4. Justin Bonsignore is in 5, and Matt Kimball sets in position number 6. Then we've got a gap, and behind that gap is Stephen Kopsick, Trevor Catalano, and Tommy Catalano.
On the racetrack, we talked about Austin Beers coming down and making that adjustment. That car is still pretty quick, and he's got about a straightaway ahead of the cars that are the race lead. Now, this is a battle that we watch for 5th. Justin Bonsignore in the 51 car, 43 car. Matthew Kimball has settled down for a moment. Stephen Kopsick behind them, who rides in 7th. The bleeding has stopped for that team for a little bit. He has settled in. He's got good pace now, and he's actually starting to close in on these two.
Yes, he actually is doing a great job setting right there. That is working to the advantage of the car directly behind him, which is Stephen Kopsick. They go to the outside, lapped automobile. It is the number 8 car of Jeanette. But it's still continuing to be a dogfight battle for the 5th position. Bonsignore, that time Kimball got a little bit loose and out of shape. Back up front, bid for the lead. Here comes Ronnie Silk, tries the crossover. Lutz bullseyes to the inside. Wheel to wheel. This is what the Whelen Modified Tour is all about.
So 101 laps in, Ron Silk takes over the race lead here in the Duel of the Dog 250, about 25 laps shy of halfway. And look at Ron Silk has opened up the advantage already now that he's gotten ahead of Treg Lutz.
He certainly has. Once in command, second leader. Took 100 laps to get there, but Ron Silk is the leader of the pack, and he continues. Silk started in the 10th position. So long way to go to get to the front, but so far he is the driving force up front, coming up on heavy lap traffic. Let's check a little further back in that field again and see what the battle is between, now it appears to be the 60 of Matt Hirschman, Justin Bonsignor, and Matt Kimball. Those three cars, Joe, the 60, 51, and the number 43.
I think one of the fastest cars on the racetrack by the stopwatch is just ahead of them, though. Patrick Everling about a tenth of a second faster than the race leader, riding in third. He's got some distance to go, though. He's directly in front of this battle here.